Hi, everyone, and welcome to Rescripted Podcast, where we could celebrate the great things in life, share about the not so great parts, and find out how we can rewrite those challenges, turn them into insightful moments that will lead us to change, to growth, to happiness, and empowerment, all so that we can live the life we truly want to experience. I am Amy Quiles, your personal development coach and the host of Rescripted Podcast. In today's episode, we are going to be discussing the struggle that high achievers face sometimes of when they achieve success, yet it feels empty. As a high achiever, you love to get things done. It's one of the pleasures of your day, right? You like to be proactive, you like to be efficient, and you really like to see your work move from one stage to the next. There is great pleasure in that when you are a high achiever. You are motivated by your progress. You're motivated by your success. But sometimes you look at it and you realize that it doesn't have the elements or the components that you thought it would. You don't feel invigorated. You don't feel energized, and you don't feel so proud of what you've done. Instead, what you feel is burnt out. And sometimes you look at it and you think, is this all that there is? I worked so hard. I gave so much, and the reward is so limited, or maybe just feels empty. I think we've all been there when we work so hard towards something. We gave it a couple years, a couple months, whatever that timeline was that it needed, but you do it. And instead of thinking you have this eureka moment at the end, it's almost like nothing. You feel nothing. And that in and of itself can be really disheartening, because that's not what you put all that work in for. That's not what you thought it was going to equate to. So why do you feel this emptiness? Why is there a void that you feel? And instead of this excitement, instead of having this beautiful thing that you created, instead you're feeling burned out. And you're feeling the pressure of always having to perform, because the truth of the matter is, once you get done with one task, there's another one that awaits, and so on and so on. And that process continues to happen because that is the trajectory of movement, right? You're constantly moving, so there's always constantly going to be something to do. And it gets to a point where you have to be able to stop and appreciate what you worked on, understand the progress that you worked on, and see if it's in alignment with what really matters to you. Because when there's a million tasks to be done, you could really get lost in all that. And before you know it, you pick your head up from all the work that you've done, and you may realize that you've been heading down the wrong direction. And maybe it feels uncomfortable, it feels not natural or organic or aligned, because you've been working on the wrong components. Not that you are off. It's just you're not working in the area that you can serve best. And as we all know, when you work on projects, it has different layers, it has different dimensions, and it has different departments. So if you're trying to manage everything and you go down this rabbit hole of taking care of the things that maybe somebody else would have been better suited for, or maybe it didn't need so much attention. And then when you wake up and you realize that you've got a lot done, but you don't know if it was in line with what you truly wanted to do, the impact that you really wanted to do. And maybe it was just more busy work. Maybe behind it all, it was just some insecurity that you were hiding behind until you were able to discover what is the purpose of all this, right? Because you don't keep going down the wrong direction if you know that it is the wrong direction, right? When something is obvious and evident, you stop and you pivot and you make the adjustments that you need to. So the fact that you continue to go on and then you've accomplished so much, and then you realize, like, okay, maybe this isn't what I wanted. Like, why doesn't this feel great? Like, I like what I do. I love what I do even. However, it doesn't feel organic. It doesn't feel aligned. What do you do then? The truth of the matter is you don't want to operate off of performance space. that's what's going to cause you to feel burnt out. And that's what's going to cause you to feel like this is not sustainable because I'm giving my all, but I'm not getting the same in return. The way that life is meant to be, when you're living out your purpose, when you're living out in your calling, it feeds you also. Like you pour into it, but it also pours back into you. So you do feel energized and you do feel invigorated and you do feel excited to continue to move on. And when you wake up in the morning, you're not so like heavily reliant on coffee or any other thing to kind of like help you jumpstart your day. The fact that you get to wake up and do what you love the most, that's what invigorates you and that's what gets you up. And at the end of the day, you're going to see that everything in your life changes. Your relationships will be better. Your mood is obviously going to be better. And your work is going to have so much more intention behind it because it is going to be aligned with what you truly love the most. What is your calling? Because let's be honest, you're not doing all this to accomplish more. You're not doing all this to achieve more for the sake of achieving. That's not really it. It sounds great. It sounds nice. You don't mind doing the work that needs to be done. But you don't do it for the sake of achievement. You don't do it for the sake of checking something else off your list. You're really doing it because you're looking for your full potential. You want to maximize your potential because that is the scariest thing, is being able to live a life where you never tapped into your full potential. Because although you may feed certain elements in your life, you want to feel that maximum growth. You want to feel that maximum invigorating elements of saying like everything I did has purpose, has meaning, and I have great conviction over it beyond the tasks, beyond this certain project. What I do is going to ripple through everything that I do, personal and professional, because it just means that much to you. It's your way of life. It's your lifestyle. Because honestly, when you're in your purpose and when you're in your calling, it doesn't differ. That's not something that you clock in and clock out of. It's not a job. It's not something that you're able to like shift in, shift out of. It's just who you are. And wherever you go, you get to do that. You get to display it. You get to add value in that element. And that's great because you don't have to feel like there's a facade that you have to put on. You don't have to feel like there's this version of you that you have to tap into. You get to just be you. You don't have to do more to be successful. You have to find your authentic self and be you to be successful. Because when you find out the elements that make you great and you find out the elements that make you really stand out, and not in an egotistical way, right? But in a way where you understand what your value is and you get to share it in everything, then you don't feel burnt out off of just tasks and more tasks. You feel like you really made a difference. And that makes you want to be more creative in your aspirations or even in your deliveries. You can't help but to want to make more of an impact in that way because that is your true value that you're bringing. So sometimes when we're feeling that emptiness after achieving something that was supposed to be great and wonderful and something that we worked so hard on for maybe so long, like months or years, the thing that's happening is what I've coined as internal constraint. There's something in you that says, we're not right on target. Not that you did anything wrong. You're just off balance. And I feel like with all my studies and all my research, comparing it to science and comparing it to personal development and all these things that really matter and that help you be a better version of you, it really just equates to it's your intuition letting you know that something's off. So when you pour into something and it doesn't feel like the great accomplishment that you thought it would, that it's not the signature of your life, that it's not the legacy that you're meant to leave, then that just means you tapped into a component of it, but not your full purpose, not your full potential. And that's okay because those internal constraints aren't bad. They're not bad signals. And we're so conditioned to think that, if you feel some type of constraint internally, it means that you're doubting yourself, right? Or if you don't step into your full purpose and you're sabotaging yourself. But truthfully, we don't know what we don't know, but you do owe it to yourself to discover what that is. And sometimes before we can uncover who we are, we first have to clear out all the noise, and we really have to clear out some of the beliefs that held us back, or maybe the things that made us doubt ourselves, because it's really hard to push forward when you have this internal voice trying to tell you that you're really not who you are meant to be. And sometimes that could feed the doubts. And it's not about suppressing that, because that doesn't work, right? Because then that's always going to be that little voice in the back of your head that's going to make you feel like you're inadequate to some degree. It's not about ignoring it. It's about really clearing it out of your system. Because if it's not in you, then it becomes foreign, right? So if you clear out the doubt, then doubting yourself becomes foreign. But it's not just clearing out the doubt. It's understanding your true purpose. It's understanding your true calling. And truthfully, nobody could tell you what that is except you and your relationship with God. Because the truth of the matter is your purpose, your calling has a level of nourishment to everyday life. Whether it's the way that you operate, the way that you think, maybe you just motivate others and you inspire others, or maybe you help people get out of their own way. Whatever it is you provide, it serves a level of nourishment to others, to yourself, of course, right? Because it's the way that you operate, but also it is so valuable and it is so essential. But if you don't know it, you can miss out on it. And I don't want you to not know how great of a blessing you are, because you get to really enjoy it and you really get to impact in a great way, because instead of doubting yourself, you get to realize you are a vessel. You are a great vessel, and you get to nourish different elements of life. And it doesn't mean we all know everything, right? I say we're all like Care Bears. We all have our special, unique light that we share, and it's complementary to everyone else, and I think it's really important for you to discover what that is in you. And of course, I understand that is so much easier said than done. Believe me, I know I've been there. I had to do that deep internal soul searching to understand what it is that I offer, and I had to go through my own alchemy moment to realize that all that you are meant to be, you already have it. So it's not that you have to look for it out there, right? There's nobody that's holding your value away from you. It's just there's a couple things that are clouding our vision of it, whether it's the way that we think. So we have to readjust our mindsets. Maybe it's the way that we operate. Maybe some of our behaviors need to be tweaked, but it's not anything that you can't tune into. And what I've discovered through my research, my studies, and my own personal experience is the greatest way to find you is to first remove the things that aren't meant to serve you. There's a beauty of self-doubt, right? Because although there's two sides of the coin. So there's a part of self-doubt that's damaging, and there's another part that's self-doubt that kind of makes you feel like you need to dig just a little bit deeper. Maybe you need more clarity. Maybe you need more conviction. Because to have blind confidence in things that you don't have deep conviction in, that also can be harmful, right? Because that's what's going to lead you to go down a wrong direction. That's not going to give you that fulfillment that you're looking for. So you don't want blind confidence. You want conviction in your confidence. You want to understand that it's purposeful, it's meaningful, and it's aligned with what you truly care about, what your values are, what you want your impact to be. It's not just about doing. It's not just about having. It's about truly being the true you, because you don't want to just be successful on paper. You want your success to truly be of legacy. You want it to ripple through time. And the only way that you can get that is through your convictions, because that's what you're going to be committed to. That's what you're going to invest in. And that's what's worth your time. Not a million tasks that as soon as you finish one pile, there's another pile of tasks waiting for you. There's a level of fulfillment. I'm not knocking that, because as a high achiever, I love to get my to-do list done. So I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but that's not what holds your identity. That is not what holds your purpose. That is not what holds your impact. That is part of the structure to make it happen, but that shouldn't be where your identity is of how much you can accomplish. You want to focus on how much you can impact, because that's what you're meant for. So if any of this sounds like that's the stage that you're at, and you're ready to start doing some soul searching and clearing out some of the things that don't serve you, because at the end of the day, you want a life that you feel is aligned with you and your purpose and your calling, so you can do that great impact that that you're built for, to tap into your full potential, because that's where you're going to be invigorated and lit up, because you don't want to look at your life and say, it doesn't feel like me anymore. I've accomplished a lot. I have a lot, but it doesn't feel like me anymore. And maybe you're looking to find elements of ways to escape from your own life, but you don't have to, because your life should be the greatest thing that you experience. I mean, you can't escape it, right? You are there wherever you turn. So make sure that every day is impactful, is exciting, is fulfilling. And that is what your true calling is going to lead you to experience. Great days. Every day is going to be better than the next, and you're going to be surprised. You're going to be like, today's a great day. And then tomorrow comes, you're going to be like, no, today is a great day. And then the next day comes, you're like, I know I said yesterday was great, but today is really great. And then you just realize you're just living in your purpose. And that is worth everything, because it's going to give you everything. And you see how as you're pouring into others and you're pouring into other things, you're also being poured into as well. And that's what I call a two-way street. And that's the nourishment of life. You don't want to feel depleted. You want to feel energized. You don't want to feel like you're operating aimlessly. You want to have great conviction that what you're doing is worth all the time and energy that you're pouring into. You want to be excited about the things that you do. I've been down this road, and I understand that it could be such a vulnerable road. And sometimes we can't admit to ourselves where we're stuck because we don't know, or maybe we could be ashamed. How are we going to open up to someone else? So I'm not a therapist. That's not something that I work through, but I am a coach, and I want to help you clear out some of those things. And some of the biggest elements that stop us, of course, are things that are going to cause us to doubt, areas that are going to cause us to sabotage ourselves, and eventually lead to feeling like that dreadful feeling of imposter syndrome. But you're not an imposter. There's just a little bit of house cleaning that needs to be done. And I've created different workbooks to work through different areas that can have you stuck. And it goes from doubting yourself to people pleasing and a few other things along the way. And if you just want to start with one workbook at a time, they are there for you. But if you understand that all of these things are things that are holding you back and you're ready for a massive change, then I created them all in a bundle for you, and you get a benefit of a discount if you buy the bundle. But they're all meant to meet you where you are. And if you're too vulnerable that you don't want to share, because high achievers, let's be honest, we don't really like to focus on the negative. We like to focus on the positive, what's going to move us forward. So sometimes we don't want to be stuck in the things that make us feel uncomfortable, but we cannot move forward if we have this like anchoring, intuitive restraints that are holding us back, because regardless of what, we're taking those things with us. So we have to realize we've got to let them go. But you have to know what they are first, right? How do you let go of something you're not aware of? You just ignore it, you suppress it, but it still lingers. And you are meant to be free. You're not meant to feel like you have baggage or anything like that. You want to be able to address it. And that means it has to be brought to light, dealt with, and release it so that those areas that held you back before now become something foreign to you. So, of course, I don't know where you are in your journey personally, but if you feel some type of internal constraint, I do invite you to check out the different workbooks that help you break free from some of these limitations. Now, they are kind of like step by step, because I want you to feel comfortable knowing that I am here for you. I do understand, and I understand that this is vulnerable. And some of our most vulnerable areas are the ones that we hold locked up the most. So I don't want it to feel invasive. I don't want you to feel like you're being forced to, put all of your emotions out in front if that's not what you're ready for. So that's why these are made into workbooks. You get to work on them on your own leisure, in your own time, when you make space to be able to allow yourself to dig deep, because these aren't meant to be task-oriented workbooks. These are meant to be reflecting workbooks. And sometimes you can't do that when there's so much noise going on around you, when you're multitasking. That's not what these are for. These are for you being a reflection of you, understanding what is serving you in the greatest way, because there are great things serving you. But what are the things that are holding you back from being your greatest self and enjoying your life to the best that you know you can, into your full potential, And I understand and I respect that those are elements that need to be done in your own private, quiet time. And that's why they're in workbooks. Or if you have any questions and there are some things that you really just want to find a little bit of guidance on, then I also have the link down below where you could book a call with me, whatever you feel comfortable with. If you want to deal with it together or if you want to do it through workbooks, I have both options available for you. If you enjoyed this episode today, I have so much more coming your way. So go ahead and subscribe so that together we can walk down this journey together, because ultimately I want you to be happy. You're happy. I'm happy. We're all happy. It's a better atmosphere, a better environment, right? So living in your purpose is something that you're called to do. So you don't want to miss out on your calling. And that is it for this episode. I wish you a great day, a blessed day, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And if you enjoyed this episode and feel like it was insightful, then I ask you to please rate it, like it, and subscribe. And share it with someone you feel will enjoy it. I'll be back here next week and we will continue to discuss matters regarding personal development. Take care, guys. Have a blessed week, and I'll see you next time.